We're talking about powerful questions for couples. And the way that this works is that these are questions that you ask yourself about your relationship rather than for you to use these together as a couple. And what this really is about is solving for X. People get confused about this whole notion of solving for X, but it's really simple. The idea is just simply this. Everything changes when I change. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've tried everything, which you haven't, by the way, but I've tried everything and my relationship isn't getting better. Well, the problem is that you've been probably trying the wrong things to improve your relationship. And so we want to challenge you to think about maybe new aspects that you can bring into your relationship to experience positive change. I'm Carrie Decker, your host. We'll be right back. My guests today are Debbie and Mark Dowding. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, Carrie. Good to be here.
How you doing, Carrie?
We go way back,
Way back.
Yeah. How way back do we go?
22 years?
Maybe even further than that. I don't know for sure,
Yeah.
So,
you still had then. It's a little
I still had what?
You still had a little bit of gray then. I mean, you've always been a silvery.
Yeah, no, you almost said it, a silver fox. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know if that was appropriate. Sorry.
I like that beard that Mark is sporting. How do you feel about that?
Me, I love it.
Well, there you go. That's all that matters.
He did have one of the kids on his bus ask him if he was Santa Claus.
Actually, one of my friends does Santa Claus, and he looks so much more like Santa Claus than Mark does.
Okay.
But I'm glad you guys are with us today. Well, instead of just, I guess, protracting this meaningless banter, let's go ahead and we will look at the questions that we have here. We're going to only be going through 5 of these today with Debbie and Mark. And so the first one, our first powerful question is simply just this, is that on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, how well do I let go of past hurts and offenses that my spouse has caused me? What could I do to improve? Now, I have a quick scripture here I'd like to share with you on that, and that's just simply this. In Ephesians 4:32, it says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." And I think the big problem with Christians when they read these passages is that they think that they apply in the church and not in the home. But the fact of the matter is that they apply equally well in the home. Be kind and compassionate to one another, husbands and wives, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God has forgiven you. And so, what do you think about that powerful question? Do you think that that's a good question for couples to consider in their relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they need to learn to forgive.
Yeah. I think that when we start off in marriage, how long have you guys been married now?
37 years in November.
Well, good. Congratulations. and of course, it's been a smooth ride all the way along, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So 37 years in November. So,
yes.
So we start off in our marriages not anticipating the speed bumps and the potholes and the detours and the train wrecks that we're going to have along the way. And I've never met a couple yet who doesn't have those. There's always a speed bump, a pothole, a train wreck, or, a detour along the way. And so we don't anticipate those, but they come anyway. And it's hard for us to kind of get back on track sometimes. How about for you? And I'm not asking for any personal details. I'm just asking, have you ever experienced that difficulty of getting back on track in your own lives?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, those speed bumps and train wrecks, they hit us unexpectedly. No one, as you said, anticipates that they're going to have those in life.
Yeah.
And when they come, oftentimes we don't know what to do about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've absolutely experienced that.
The only thing that I've ever found that works is grief. So we have to grieve the relationship that we thought we had and decide whether or not we're going to invest in the relationship that we have. So there's grief, then there's forgiveness. And forgiveness is essentially is canceling a debt. You owe me, but I've decided not to collect. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to collect next time we have an argument. You know, so and by the way, couples don't do forgiveness perfectly. How about for you? Have you ever struggled in that process of feeling like that's behind me now, but all of a sudden I'm struggling again?
Yes, of course. I've discovered that forgiveness is both an initial decision to forgive, but it's also an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So you can decide you want to forgive, and you truly mean that, but it's going to come up again the next day or the next week or the next year.
Yeah.
And you remind yourself, I've decided to forgive this.
Yeah.
And you decide once and you continue. And forgiveness is a process.
Yeah.
But if you don't forgive, you are stuck. You are stuck in that pain and that hurt, and that's all you can see.
Nothing can replace it, because
No.
I remember my wife once said this in the conversation that we were having with another couple, because I was really questioning whether or not it was appropriate for them to forgive in the situation that they were facing. And my wife, and she says she doesn't remember this, but I'm thankful that my wife doesn't remember a lot of things from our relationship, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But she said, and it just kind of jarred me. She said, well, what's your option? And, when it comes to forgiveness is the only game in town when you've been hurt. Because your options are to be angry and resentful and embittered and hateful and seeking revenge. And none of that is good for your soul.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've said it before, and I'm sure you have too, that forgiveness sets a prisoner free. But it didn't originate with me, by the way. I stole this from, I think, Lewis Smedes. But forgiveness sets a prisoner free, and we discover that prisoner is ourself.
Right.
Yeah. So, that anything to add to that one before we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think that, oftentimes we come to these problems in our relationships and we don't know how to forgive.
Yeah.
And so we have a choice at that point to either learn what forgiveness is and how to apply it, or go down the path, as you said, of revenge and arguing and fighting. And even when we learn how to forgive and we begin to incorporate that into our relationship, it's very, very easy to slip back into the old habits.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, it is a constant choice that we have to make in our relationships.
Yeah, I forgive the shameless plug, but I have an online course that walks people through the whole process of how to forgive, because it's crazy, and you get this even preached in churches. You need to forgive, and well-meaning Christians believe that, but they've never been taught how to forgive. And sometimes you just can't will that resentment away. You can't will that hurt away. And so you're stuck in figuring out how to do that. And so my course, sidewaysrelationships.com, we have a whole segment on that. You guys have been through that program, right?
Yep.
You also were instructors on it, so good for you. So
yes, it is.
Yeah. So let's go ahead with the next question. I believe that's question number 7. Let's see what it has to say here. So we're talking about powerful questions for personal and relational transformation. And question number 7 is, what do I do to help my spouse feel appreciated? What do I do to help my spouse feel appreciated? And the passage of scripture that goes along with that is, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. You know, the book of Proverbs, that's Proverbs 16:24. And the book of Proverbs is one of my favorite Bible books. I just love going through it. And I've gone through it many, many times. But I always find good stuff there. And even, surprisingly, God sneaks, it seems like he sneaks new scriptures in there all the time. So how about you guys? What do you do to show appreciation? Or let's talk about that question. Why is that an important question for couples to consider?
Well, I think it's not just for couples, but for anyone. Everyone wants to know that they are appreciated.
Yeah.
Right? We need that. So not to overstate the obvious, but my suggestion would be to tell your husband or wife, tell your partner, your spouse, that you appreciate them. Don't assume that they know.
Yeah.
But tell them.
Hey, I just have to tell you a story. Excuse me for interrupting. But that in my very first ministry, that I would visit an old lady every week, and she was in kind of a retirement home type of thing. And the reason why I would visit her every week is that the previous minister did that, and she had that expectation. Well, and it went on for a long time, my visits with her, until she passed. But she would tell me different things from her life, and I didn't understand anything about recovery and that whole process, but she would tell me different things about her life. And one of the stories she told me was her husband, and he was really a churlish and mean soul. And I think that they eventually divorced or whatever. And she says, I would do my best, and I would cook meals for him all the time. And from time to time, I would ask him, "And do you like that? Did you like the meal I prepared?" And he would say, "Well, if I didn't like it, I would tell you." But he never told her that he liked it.
Right, and that's not the same thing.
No, exactly. What a nut, really, Sometimes we are our own worst enemy in marriage, So.
Yeah, I think it's very easy for us as humans to, I think it's actually our natural tendency is to focus on ourselves.
Yeah.
When questions like, am I doing something that's showing my appreciation, we change the focus from us and onto the other person. And
exactly.
That's an important thing to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we just blunder through life and don't really take into account how we're affecting the people around us.
Yeah. If this summit hasn't helped anybody else, it's helped me, because I've had an opportunity to watch all of the sessions, but I've also become much more mindful, and that's a good word, by the way, is to become much more mindful that what I want from my wife is something that I should give to her. And if I want recognition and affirmation and appreciation and words of love and so on and so forth, and patience and all of that, well, if that's what I want from her, then that's what I should be willing to give to her. So I hope she never watches this broadcast. If she does, I'm in deep trouble. I'm telling you right now. But yeah, marriage is not about scorekeeping. But it is about affirming your spouse and speaking those gracious words, Other than words, how can we show that we appreciate our wives and our husbands?
We can be respectful, we can be honest, we can be transparent.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can do things for them.
Yeah.
We can buy things for them.
Yeah. Woohoo! And Debbie says, woohoo! Keep digging your grave deeper, Mark. Yeah. Do you have anything to add other than words, Debbie? Or are you just going to say that's enough right there?
No, I'm pretty happy with that last statement, yeah. But yeah, it doesn't, just give an extra thought, what can I do that would, show Mark, how I feel, how I appreciate him. And I think pretty good about telling him, thank you for this, thank you for that. And he's so very mindful and considerate of that. He is very aware, and it's simple things, most of which don't cost money.
Yeah.
When we're walking and I need a hand on the curb, or he offers me his arm, or, just things like that that show me that, he's aware and he's thinking.
We forget how essential courtesy is in our marriages. And I think oftentimes the longer we've been married, the easier it is to just kind of get into those ruts and that expectation. Well, you're supposed to be there for me, type of deal. So, Mark, it looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, I do. I think, and I know books have been written about this, and it's been hashed over and over again, but it's still true that we also need to understand what it is that speaks that care and affection to your spouse.
Yeah.
Because I could say, well, I bought all these marble figurines to put in the living room because I love you. But, if that means nothing to Debbie, then that means nothing to Debbie.
Yes. And I kind of suspect that doesn't have the same value to Debbie as it does to you.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it has value to me because I know how he likes them.
Yeah.
So it has value to me, but
hey,
not my thing.
You know what a miserable husband that I am? Is that
Tell us.
Oh, tell me more. Is that the other day for my wife's 65th birthday. And probably that's miserable right there for me to say that out loud, for the whole world to hear, But I even shudder to say this, but I bought her a pair of work gloves. And and so, but no, the reason why I bought them for her is that I bought a pair for myself because we work out in the garden. And we have bougainvilleas and rose bushes and cactus. We have one of those low water gardens, Mm-hmm. And we're always getting stuck, and we hate that. But I've discovered that pigskin work gloves really minimize that. And so I thought, man, she'll really like this when she's doing work in the garden. So it wasn't like I was trying to... I did some other stuff for her, okay, but not on that particular day. I'm trying to... Nobody would accuse me of being a hopeless romantic, I'm telling you right now. So, well, let's move on in our slides here. And we'll look at our next powerful question that we're considering here. And that's question number 8. What am I doing to find out what my spouse really needs from me? What am I doing to find out what my spouse really needs from me? And a passage we can go along that goes along with that is, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. And that's not just church people again. And that certainly applies in the home. So we're talking about these powerful questions. Is that, what do you think of that particular question? Do you remember what it was?
I think that goes back to understanding what it is that your spouse appreciates.
Exactly.
You know, you need to really pay attention to the way that you are expressing appreciation and make sure that it is something that they understand as well.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah. Because you may be going into that experience full of expectation that she's going to be delighted to receive some pigskin work gloves. You know? But your spouse may not always feel that way. You know. Fortunately, she did. You know.
Good. So on our first anniversary, our first wedding anniversary, I thought we're going to go out and have dinner and go see a movie. Yeah. And I picked a movie, and the movie was Terminator.
It was what?
Terminator.
Yeah,
this is going to be great. We ended up spending almost the entire night discussing the ins and outs of time travel and trying to make Debbie understand how someone could come from the future and father someone in the past and then go back to the future and do it. It didn't work out the way I had hoped.
Yeah. Well, the mere fact that she put up with you beyond that first date is that anniversary speaks volumes, you know.
Yes.
But, you know, I personally, I don't like guys who are hopeless romantics. And I'll tell you why. They set the bar too high for the rest of us chumps. I know a guy who whisked his wife away to some vacation or elaborate event, and he had her picked up at the home in a limousine and all of this stuff. And I said, what can I do? What can I do that's ever going to outmatch that? You know, unfortunately, my wife heard the same story, you know. And so, you know, I just said, man, you know, I just can't do it. I can't live up to those standards, you know. Anything else about what are you doing? Or that question about trying to figure out what my spouse needs from me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think just paying attention, you know, to what's going on in their life. You know, if you're aware of a situation at work, or if something is going on that you know is weighing on their mind, you know, giving them space, giving them time, saying, hey, do you want to talk about this? And I know you can't anticipate every need they might have, but, you know, if you've been in a relationship for a while, you kind of know you come to know what that person likes. Yeah. You know, so Mark likes a cup of tea in the morning. So when I'll make a cup of tea for him, you know, it's very little trouble to me, but it means something to Mark.
Yeah.
Just paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. You know?
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Okay, here I go again. I'm guilty as charged because I do a lot of work in front of the computer. A lot of work in front of the computer. And my wife and I, we work both at home. And so she'll come into my office and start talking to me. And I'm still kind of looking at the screen. I've discovered, now I'm not good at this 100%. Maybe not even 80%. You know? But I've discovered that the conversation goes a whole lot better if I turn away from the screen and look at her. You know, or put down my phone, you know, and look at her.
Right.
Now, here again, I'm digging my own grave, but that's, you know, so let's move on. We have another powerful question here, And I believe that brings us to question number 9. And question number 9 is, how can I grow and improve as a partner? How can I grow and improve as a partner? And 1 Peter 1:22 says, now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth, so that you have a sincere love for each other, love one another deeply from the heart. I like these powerful questions myself. I think that they're helpful for me, and hopefully they're helpful for other folks as they consider them. But I'm not going to let you off the hook on this one. We said in the pre-show meeting, I'm not going to ask you about your own relationship. But, okay, I went back on my word. Is that, give me one thing, Mark. How can I grow as a partner?
Well, again, I keep coming back to this probably because this for many, many years was a big fault of mine, is that I can learn to be more aware of my spouse, of Debbie, and her needs.
Yeah.
And for years I was just oblivious. I didn't even know what her favorite color was, or what flowers she liked, or what kind of music she liked for years.
Yeah.
If we'd been on the Newlywed Show at 10 years into marriage, we would have bombed out in the very beginning.
And you are dating yourself when you reference that cultural reference of the Newlywed Show. How long has that been off the air now? Who knows?
Long time.
So, Debbie, one thing.
Well, it might, one of the best things I think you can do, maybe the best thing you can do to be a better partner, is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to manage your own, whatever it is that you're dealing with, work on your own emotional and spiritual health, take care of the things that are keeping you stuck or holding you back.
Yeah.
If you're not in the best place you can be, which is not to say you will always be in a good place.
Yeah.
But if not in the most healthy and most sound place you can be, that's definitely going to affect your relationship with your spouse.
Yeah. And of course, you're not talking about in cases of bona fide mental illness and things of that nature, but you are talking about or referencing, at least I assume that you're referencing things like, your own, mood management and processing your anger and your hurts and your disappointments, not just with your spouse, but in life in general, and doing some kind of like healthy emotional maintenance,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else before we move on to our final question?
Yeah, can we re-record this and then I'll give the... Because that was good. That was really good.
Yeah, it is. No, if we re-recorded it, I would steal it, and so, I mean... so, all right. Well, let's look at slide number 10 here. And it says here, this powerful question is, let me get there. I got to find it. And it's, what am I doing to build emotional intimacy in our marriage? Now, the key word there is emotional intimacy. What am I doing to build emotional intimacy in our marriage? And a good passage for that is Proverbs 31, verses 10 and 11. It says this: a wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. There's one translation of the Bible that says the heart of her husband trusts her. And I like that, the way that puts it, or full confidence. And so, how about that? What are you guys doing, or at least that question is, what do you think about this question to ask ourselves, what am I doing to build emotional intimacy? Now, I'm not asking for you to share what's going on for you, but that question itself.
I think that's a very important question to ask. And typically I avoid these kinds of questions.
Most guys do. They say, emotions, what are you talking about? I have one emotion, or two emotions. That's anger and boredom. You know?
Yeah, I think particularly for men, and obviously when I say for men, I'm talking about myself. But we tend to be closed off. We tend to be walled off. And someone says, "How are you doing?" and we say, "I'm fine."
Sure.
Even though a part of the side. And so I think that asking ourselves, "How can I connect on a deeper emotional level with my spouse?" is very important. Mm-hmm. And I think we do that by being transparent, by sharing our fears, sharing our hopes, talking about the things that trouble us.
Yeah.
And that's oftentimes extremely difficult for a man to do.
Oh, yeah.
I think in a husband and wife situation, because our culture, at least the culture we grew up in, encouraged men to be men and to be strong and not cry and not share our emotions.
Yeah. Debbie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would. So we are empty nesters now.
Mm-hmm. Woo!
Woo-hoo! So it's just the two of us and we just moved in the last week. This lovely little place. It's perfect for us, but so it's just the two of us, and we do, and we always have, but it's been more since we've been just the two of us. Is maintain, like, touch is important.
Yeah.
So instead of sitting, on opposite sides of the room, we'll sit on the couch next to each other, or, instead of sitting on the opposite of the dining room table, we'll sit, at a right angle, so we're right there with each other.
Sure.
And, holding hands, things like that. That's important.
Yeah. And all of those things help cultivate that culture or that atmosphere of emotional intimacy in marriage. Mark, it looked like you wanted to say something.
Nope.
Okay, good. Hey, before we wrap up here, if you had to add any questions to powerful questions for couples to ask, do you have any recommendations yourself?
Yeah, I think, again, to build on this awareness thing, because this has been a fault of mine for many years, I think a question that I regularly ask myself is, am I even aware of how my spouse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Debbie, any question that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think it might be a good practice to periodically just sit down and have a serious talk with each other. Like, what are our goals? Are we on the same page? What are we moving forwards? What's our plan?
Yeah. Because
you might be surprised to find that you have two completely ideas of where you want to go and end up.
Yeah.
And that's not conducive to a real healthy relationship.
Sure.
So just touch base periodically.
Yeah. So what am I doing to touch base periodically and to check in with my spouse and see if we're on the same page in our present relationship and our expectations about the future?
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Right. Hey, man, I always love visiting with you guys. I really do. And you're just special people. And so may God continue to bless you in your life and in your marriage, and may He give you many, many more years ahead of happiness. Hey, I need to wrap this thing up for now, but I appreciate you folks watching this show, and there's plenty of great content here on 4 Habits to Transform Your Marriage. So keep tuning in. I'll see you next time.